to this computer. Okie dokie, everybody. So welcome to your Future Leaders Today call episode 65. One day I'm going to know that in advance instead of checking my diary. So 65 lovely calls covering majoritively crypto and finance, although in the early days we did a lot of sense making. We have a dear sister here, Marie, who I haven't seen her in a while, and the last time I saw her was on one of those said calls, which may pick up again at some point. But for now, Future Leaders Today focuses on helping people on board into crypto to fundamentally gain sovereign finance, the ability to own your own money, not at the control of governments, third-party authorities, external eyes, prying fingers, prying anythings, and begin this transition into a more fair and just world for all, with an economy based whereby people can transact with whomever they want, whenever they want, not at the expensive sanctions and all sorts of stuff that is imposed on the incredibly large and complex financial system we have. So together with my dear brother and friend Richard, we help run Future Leaders Today. This is the greatest transference of wealth we have ever seen, and we find it part of our responsibility, but through choice, whatever that counts as, just to help people transition from not having a clue all the way into really being able to, I suppose, swim out of the shallow areas into some of the deeper waters on your own, unaided. That is our goal. So we have these calls every couple of weeks now. We have a gap in between because it was taking up a bit of too much time, and we weren't able to increase the focus, increase the quality for you guys. So we got some beautiful new faces in here. I can see Rod, who's never joined us, Kimberly. I'd love a quick catch up with Marie. And I think we're good. Omar, you've been on calls before, but your camera's never working. Is that right? Yeah, I thought so. I'm just checking. Okay, cool, brother. All right. So what I would love then is for the people that have never been on a call before, these are fairly free flow. We do have a theme for every single call. So we can take pretty much questions on anything, but the theme that's going to run through this is going to be around privacy in general. And we're looking at probably moving staking and interest bearing accounts and all of these things to the next call, because it's so big, but we might get into it at the end if there's time and things like that. So if you're new to a call, or you can keep your cameras on, keep your cameras off, we're not bothered either way. Your microphones you can keep on or off. All I ask is if you do keep your microphone on, to just be aware of your background sounds and noises. That's all. You can ask questions, you can raise your hand physically, you can click a button, you can say "I." All ways are welcome. Obviously, be aware of what's happening socially at the time as well. So for the new people, Rod, Kimberly, there you go. We always start with a little bit of techno.
My fault. I'm quite sure what happened there.
Okay, I'm gonna have muted you there, Richard. Are you good?
Yeah.
Are we all good? Testing. Yeah, we're good.
Sorry about that.
All right. It's okay. We've always got a few technical difficulties. So I'd love to come to Rod and to Kimberly and to Marie just for a minute or so, just to give us a bit of a round robin of where you're at in a crypto journey. It just lets us understand. Me and Richard generally have a good idea of everyone here. So if you want to just take 30, 60 seconds, Rod, and you click to unmute yourself, and just let us know where you're at.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. I feel as if I'm just starting, but I suspect I'm slightly further on than just starting. Certainly, my partner's son and my eldest son are both heavily into crypto, so they're way ahead of me. I think that, know that the fiat economic system is on the point of collapse, and we really need something to replace it that takes the power and control away from the people who ought not to have the power and control over the financial system and over our finances. I hold small volumes of 2 coins, one with Binance and one with Coinbase. And that's as far as I've got so far.
Ooh. Do you mind me asking what those tokens are?
Polkadot and Cardano.
What was the first one?
Polkadot.
Okay, Polkadot and Cardano. Cool. All right, Rod, thank you very, very much. Welcome to FLT. Thanks for joining. We're going to come over to Kimberly. Kimberly with a K.
Brand new, pretty much. I mean, I first started hearing about it when I was with Roger and you guys down in South Africa, and just the language of it, you know, it's a language, and there was too many terms I wasn't familiar with, so but now I have resources that I'm not willing to have disappear in my bank account, and I'm just trying to figure out, what do I do with these? What do I put it in? Gold, silver, crypto? Crypto is I'm very naive, and I've listened to some videos and I've heard similar words repeated. So at some point I'll understand them. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. When you joined and I was like, you said Kimberly, I was like, you look like Kimberly from China. And I was like, it can't be, it wouldn't be. And it actually is you. Hello.
Well, Marie and I talk every day. So we've been talking about this, and she said, Daniel knows, let's connect with him. So there we both are.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Love to see you on here, and if we can help, then brilliant. And I can see a guitar in the background, so I've just had my bought some new strings for my guitar before this call, which is why I was a bit late. So is that yours in the background?
It is mine, but it's more decoration at this point.
Well, mine was for 20 years after not playing it in the corner, and then one day I dusted it off. All I can say is it is like riding a bike. So maybe one day you'll feel inspired to pick it back up again. Cool. Well, welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for joining. Marie, obviously, I know you very well, but I don't have a clue where you are in your financial sovereignty and crypto journey.
Well, I very much am like Kimberly, you know, have heard and started to dabble and lost a whole bunch. And then I said, until I know more, so I'm I feel like I'm a newbie right now. And I want to, obviously, just like Kimberly, I want to be as safe with my dollars as possible with, you know, we're both from the US. And so, yeah, crazy stuff happening over here.
There's crazy stuff all around the world, but the USA is definitely not without it. Awesome. Well, great to have you both all on here. Ricardo, have I got you on mute by mistake there?
No.
Oh, so your hand was up. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just thinking, just as we go around there, if anyone, there's an opportunity for anyone who's got any initial questions they want to sort of ask in, whether it's Rod or Marie or Kimberly, so we can sort of gauge, you know, any sort of direction.
That's always good. Let me check some notes whilst I'm here. So it just helps us in the beginning, if you guys have got specific, not even specific, but like areas within what we're discussing, or even not discussing, I suppose, because we can open it up, that you'd love to make sure you come off this call with, because that's the thing that we always ask people is, okay, so you speak to someone and they say, oh, I'm a newbie. Okay, so then what's stopping you move from newbie 1.0 to newbie 1.1? Because that's all you need sometimes. So that would be a direct question to Rod, to Kimberly, and to Marie, just to feel into for 10 seconds. And in a minute, I'll stop speaking. You know, if you were to learn one thing on this call to help you move, what would that be? You can go in any order you wish.
I think for me, it's like when I think of investing in silver or gold as well, how do I use this? What percentage of my resources, if money somehow is going to evaporate, I've got silver coins and I've got crypto, how do I spend those things to live on? So it's that kind of, how do you actually utilize, or is it just an investment that you at some point cash out kind of thing? I know crypto, you can buy things with it, but it's really, what do I do with it once I own it? Am I just hanging on to it, or am I able to use it somehow?
That's a really good question. There's a really funny guy who does YouTube videos, and at one point he's like, yes, what do I do once I own it? And the guy turns to him and goes, well, nobody knows that. You got to get it. Okay. And he runs off and gets it. Cool. Thank you, Kimberly. Marie or Rod, who wants to go next? Rod?
I would like very much to, like, what is the very first step? Is it, you know, I know there was some dance around using banks or not using banks, and where, like, what is the first dance partner? Like, where do I start?
Okay, cool. We can easily cover that. And Rod, for yourself?
Yeah, I think mine's quite silly, and pretty sure it's just technical. I'd really like to be able to load up my Binance account straight from one of my fiat accounts. But so far, Binance has absolutely refused to allow me to verify my identity. I've tried from several different computers and my phone, and it's just not having it. I suspect it's something to do with the fact that when I'm wearing glasses, it doesn't want to recognize me. And when I take them off, I can't actually see the instructions on the screen. So I'm going to have to get some help from somebody to get through that. So not very exciting, I'm afraid, Daniel.
No worries, let's cover it. Sometimes these are the things that just create blockers. You know, it's like, how do I turn it on? Effectively, one of those sorts of things. Cool. Okay. And open question for everyone else that's on the call. We're going to be generally covering through privacy as the single golden thread. We'll weave into this Kimberly's, Marie's, and Rod's questions. But do other people have is anything a burning question for them, or even a specific question in and around privacy of blockchains and fiat and all that sort of world? Anyone got anything that they don't know about that they'd love to know about, or something they'd love to come away from this call with a little bit more information on? All good. I hope if we were ever in a chorus together in a choir, you all sing louder than this. So, all right. Well, we have plenty we can cover anyway. Okay. Well, let us, Kimberly, Marie, Rod. So it's going to make sense then, if there's no burning questions on things, to just literally run through those, because they're all fairly easy enough to do. And then what we can do is we can cover into looking at privacy and fiat and banking systems and privacy and coins as well as we're moving forward through that. So I'm going to go to Richard first for the first one, because he's pretty good on splittings of things. And then I've got some pretty cool ideas of how do you spend it. Since I've been exploring not having a bank account, how do you spend crypto has become one of my primary questions without having to go to a bank account. But first, with regards to splitting things, if fiat is going to go and you've got this wedge of money and assets, you don't want to lose it. How do you safely put it somewhere that's not in fiat? So Richard's my man for that. Ricardo, what's your thoughts?
I think first and foremost, I think you have to at least have an overview of each thing you're really thinking of investing in. So understanding, how do you feel, what's your risk profile to sort of gold? How do you feel about gold? How do you feel about silver? What do you know about them? What don't you know about them? Because they're very different things. And then you can put crypto into that. So gold, silver, crypto. But then crypto on it by itself is also just, so wide and so massive. But I mean, the first thing I'd say would be, if you've got a pot of money and those are the things you're investing in, then split them 3 ways, because each of them will have a potentially different rate of return. Like gold has done virtually nothing for a year, for example. Hasn't really kept pace with inflation, but it's essentially a safety net. Silver has got a utility, so it could grow, and there's arguments to say that it will. And crypto is just this asymmetric bet in that portfolio, where if you make the right decisions, potentially, then that's going to offset everything. So that's directly answering your question in terms of what you've mentioned there, in terms of the 3 things you're thinking of investing in. So I think that would be my first sort of comment on that. I think first and foremost, it's really, what's your risk appetite and what do you know about them? Just go into each of those and really say, well, what are they going to potentially in the future? And then you can't spend silver and gold easily, and you can spend crypto.
I'd like to just very quickly on that, Richard. You know, when you just said you can't spend silver and gold easily.
Yeah, you can spend that card, the gold card. Yeah, glint.
And
Yeah.
it's actually from America, and I've been looking at it. I've just got it, just arrived the other day, and it's an American company with the same insurance as a bank. So all the people that, I mean, I can't remember if it's 25% or 75% that US banks cover you for, and it's only up to something like 200K. But for a lot of people, that's still a lot of way more than they'll have. But you can hold gold on this, and when you go and pay, it just literally takes the spot price of gold on that day.
Debits
So
it.
it's just,
Yeah.
it just debits it straight away.
I suppose
So
the only risk to that from a sorry, cross over.
No,
It's
go on.
yeah, you definitely got it as investments is if you want security, then you should try and own the gold yourself. There's lots of different things around gold where if you don't own the gold, I don't know what the backing is for that specifically. I saw that pop up the other day, the glint card. If you don't own your physical gold or silver yourself, it's like having, if you don't own the keys to your crypto, then you don't really own it, essentially. You know, it can be liquidated, or it might be paper gold, it might be silver, it might not be yours. If you've physically got some silver and you physically got some gold and you put it in a bank account, then you know for sure you've got what you paid for. You can spend gold for sure, you know. And again, I think we had a call, what was it, 3 or 4 ago, when we had we sort of zoomed right back out and we provided the spreadsheets for people to do balance sheets, profit and loss, personal profit and loss. So it's those sort of things as well, where you kind of look at it and think, well, what do you actually need and what do you want? What are you investing for and what you actually need? If you start there, and it starts becoming easier to start thinking about how to split a portfolio as well.
Yeah. I would add on to that and second all of it, absolutely, because it always comes, it's never an easy answer. People are always darting around it, but risk profile really is important. But I think that it's a chicken and egg thing. You know, you should understand what you're investing into, but then in crypto, there's substantially more of crypto I do not know than I do know, but I know it a lot more than I've ever known. So it's like you need to know enough about crypto to be equal to the amount of risk or investment that you've got. If you've got 100K and you put 10 grand in, that's 10% of your liquidable assets, let's say, then you need to understand crypto or believe in crypto enough or trust crypto, whatever word is the right word for you, enough equal to that 10%, equal to what 10 grand feels to you and equal to what 10% is of your whole pot. And to kind of move this as well into, to bring Marie's question in as well, what comes first or what's the next step? Me and Richard spoke at length about this, and whilst there's lots of things in sovereign finance and sovereignty to do first, quite often the first step is to go and buy some crypto. And we can cover where you would go and do that, but just buy some, get in, because you can spend ages reading about it and you're never going to go back to Kimberly, you're never going to feel what that 10% trust feels like until you've got it. You have to go and get it first. And you're not going to get it until you've got in. So once you start to build that trust, you'll then understand how much more you can be in it. Like, I never thought I would be this far into crypto. I never thought I would trust in it, believe in it this much. I never thought that I would see it with such clarity. And I do, and I'm willing to put my, stake my flag and declare where I think I'm going or where it's going. But that's been a journey of unraveling fiat life and the traditional systems from my beingness, and a whole nother journey in starting to think, okay, well, what sort of world do I want to live in? Where and how does crypto play a part in that? Because crypto is neither good nor bad, it's just a piece of technology. And then implement that And that's kind of, for me, and I can only speak for myself, that's partly belief systems, it's partly my goals and missions in life, it's partly safety and security. You know, all of these things are constantly playing a part in things for me to make my decision on stuff. And in a minute, I'd love you to just let us know if that answers your question enough. You're never going to get a straight answer from me or Richard, unfortunately, but we hope to give you enough different ways to view it for you to start to move through it yourself. What I will say in terms of spending stuff, Glint is a card where you're holding gold. So it's only, but you're not, it's non-custodial. That means you don't own it. You know, you're trusting Glint to own it, and you're trusting them to provide access to it through a card whenever you want it. But it's, if your first question is, how do I hold assets not in a bank? Then this could be a step forward. It's still non-custodial, just like a bank, but it's no longer tied to fiat. This can hold GBP, USD, Euro, and gold. I don't think it holds silver. But it's, if you had 50 grand in a bank and didn't want it in fiat, you could move it to here. And legally speaking, you've got the same rights as your bank. It's the FDIC in America, is that right? FDIC that insure, yeah. So this is FDIC insured. So it's no greater or worse than a bank. It's got the same insurance and everything, but it just means you're not tied to fiat. Where Richard's talking about is that next step. Yeah, but what if the banks collapse? Where's your gold? Well, then you need it physically. But that brings with itself the questions Kimberly's got. Well, okay, I've got 10 gold coins in my house. What do I do with those? So for me, things like this exist in the same way as the crypto.com card. You can keep your crypto held in, let's say, a vault. Let's say you're in your house, you had a really big vault that took you 2 days to access. And then upstairs, you have a small vault that you can go into every day. And then in your purse, in your bag, you have a purse that you go into every hour. Then you would make sure you had enough money in the vault upstairs to make sure you can feed the purse every day. And then maybe once or twice a month, you go into the vault downstairs. It takes you 2 days, and you move a little bit of money into the vault upstairs. So with crypto, you've kind of got cold storage where you know you can't just access it like that. And then you might have exchanges or hot wallets on your computer or your phone that you can move money into really easily. And then you might have cards like this, where you can just dump some of that money into and go and spend it in a shop. And I don't need a bank account to open one of these. In fact, if I'm honest, I didn't even provide my identification, which really blagged me. Or did I, but I didn't provide my proof of address. I can't remember. So my point is that I don't need to trust this card. I only need to trust it enough to have $1,000 on it, or $500, whatever I can be bothered to. You know, if you only want to put $100 on it, I might have to keep putting it on every couple of days. That's the level of trust I need to place into this card. Because if the rest of my money is in a hot wallet or a cold storage, and I can manage that, and these are things you don't normally have to think about with sovereign finance, then it ticks the box for me. And the more things like this I can have, the better. And I could move some money onto here out of crypto, but I could still say, sorry, I could move some money out of here, out of crypto into GBP, because this doesn't hold crypto at the minute, but I bet it will too soon. But I could hold it in gold. Like Richard said, gold's not really done anything at all for a long time, and it might do soon. But nonetheless, I might still trust it more than fiat. So I hope that kind of covers that question of, well, let's go back to Kimberly. Kimberly, how much does that kind of cover the crux of what you were asking?
That's really great. And so the question that comes to mind is, if I were to say put, let's say 50K, it sounds like you wouldn't want that much in Glint, but let's just move over USD into that account. Something happens to the US dollar. It's not gold, it's US dollars, but it's not in a regular bank. Is it still just as vulnerable, the dollars in something like Glint, as it is in a regular bank? It's still...
when you say vulnerable, do you mean in what sense? Because if it's FDIC insured, you know, That insurance is to cover you, the consumer, if that bank goes bust and can't be bailed out. If it can be bailed out, your money's safe. If it can't be bailed out, the FDIC steps in. Can someone tell me what do they cover? Is it 75% or 25%?
I don't know. I thought they were bankrupt, honestly. I thought I had heard a while back that it's pretty much a lost cause. So I don't know. I don't know. This is how new I am at this stuff. But
so my understanding is that they are not in a good place, and they can cover. This is the argument. If I was to fly the flag for why everything's screwed, if a bank goes bust, the FDIC can cover. But if banks go bust,
I see.
where you're done. So that's why you've kind of got to ask yourself the question. Rod was saying earlier his view of, he said, I don't think the fiat system is going to collapse. I know it is. Yeah, that's
Right.
his view. And he's, I'm speaking for you here, Rod, I hope you don't mind, but he's, made his flag internally, and it's really good sometimes to at least really think to yourself, what do I believe? Because for as long as we don't make that decision, we just sit on a fence and we hear all of this noise from this side and all of this noise from this side, and all it does is create an equal amount of pressure, and we just stay on the fence, and so many non-decisions are made, and non-decisions can be dangerous. So I do encourage people sometimes to kind of go, what's your view? Well, I don't know, there's too much information. Well, I know there's too much information, and I know you don't know your view. But if you did know your view, what would it be? Like if you had to have your best thinking today, because that's all we ever have. You're welcome to change your mind at some point. And so you need to ask yourself, to go back to Richard's question about risk analysis, how much do I think fiat will still be here in, let's say, 5 years? I mean, 10 years ago, the iPhone 3G came out. That's how old, mobile hand devices are. Like, so much changes. So say 5 years, do I still think there'll be some sort of banking system where I'll be insured? And if so, how much of my assets am I willing to put into that? And then how much am I willing to trust crypto at the minute? And how much am I willing to trust gold and silver and put it in my safe? And that will start to help to understand what percentage of your money goes where.
Right. Well, I'm with Rod. So that's why I ask at this point, is it helpful to move fiat into an account like your Glint, or is it necessary instead to turn it into gold and then move that? Does it matter once it's in that particular kind of account? If it's an asset of some kind, is it still? Does that make sense?
So obviously, just so we're clear, like, we're not financial advisors in any states. This is just our view and opinion. I'm going to mute you, Richard. There's a lot of noise coming from your mic. Just for a second, bro.
That's fine.
Okay, cool. If it was me, and if I was doing it, and if I had the same view as yourself, which you shared from Rod, which is a collapse of the system, what would I do? I wouldn't go anywhere near this.
I see.
One could argue this is a company and we'll have a balance sheet, et cetera, and probably being, I don't know who underwrites them or anything like that. They're probably a sort of company that do believe in gold and have a lot of money in gold. So they're not a bank. So the banking system could collapse. It doesn't mean Glint would. But at the end of the day, if I did hold that view and I was edging myself into crypto, but I had a fairly strong view that gold and silver were good, then I would probably look at buying physical gold and silver and storing it incredibly safe. I would then edge into crypto, and I would, as time goes on, just make sure I understand. If I had a decent sum of money, I'd be looking at interest-bearing accounts, and then I'd find ways that I can sell my gold either for more crypto and then off-ramp them through things like this. Or I think someone was talking in the chat, Omar talked about crypto Visa MasterCards, or Crypto.com and SpectroCoin both offer cards for EU customers, not sure about the rest of the world. SpectroCoin, that's new for me. So I'd find these cards that can allow me to exist in the normal world. But if I did think the fiat system was not going to be here for much longer, and if it was me, I'd only be looking at gold, silver, crypto. I'm not really into property anymore. That's the only other thing. They're the things that are the standard things that hold wealth over time. And I'd go into those proportionally according to how much I trust them. If you absolutely trust gold and silver, then that's going to take the lion's share, because crypto can take a bit longer to find that trust. Does that help?
One thing one thing I'd say though is you definitely want to think about inflation, because at the end of the day, your money, your bank, I mean, the reported inflation rate is around about 4 or 5%. I think when you look at like things like the CPI and things like, it's more like 15%. So you need really to start thinking, well, how do I look at gold? Do I think gold is a safe bet, and do I think it will go up? And with at least some of your investments, you need to be at least beating inflation, make sure that you're not losing it, because your dollars and your pounds in your bank, you're losing 10, between 5 and 15% a year on that. So, apart from the collapse of the fiat system, the banks and everything, in the meantime, you're just eroding your wealth every year that it's there, every month that it's there. I think America said, USA was it 4% inflation last month? It's insane, and they're just printing money off the cliff. So, Rod's right, and everyone's right. It is going to crash. It's just a matter of time. And this is where I think we started this group, wasn't it? It was like, pre-lockdown, it felt like it was on the edge then, but it's like they've printed so much money now, it's just gone into oblivion. I'll try and find a chart where you can sort of see the line of money that the supply that they've created of dollars into the system, and that's just the USA. So it is on a cliff. But in terms of investments, always something really worthwhile to keep in mind is that inflation, what they say is inflation is 5%, it's really more like 15%. Unless your wages are going up 15% a year, unless your interest is going up 15% a year, you're actually losing money all the time, back. And that's where these opportunities come from. Maybe that helps kind of steer then the the kind of split that you look in terms of the things you're interested in. Go and investigate, and then you can allocate your portfolio accordingly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Does that give you enough, Kimberly, now to create space between some of the things you're working on?
Yeah, that gives me a great starting point. Really appreciate it.
Okay, cool. Well, just send any questions and stuff in the groups and things. It's a really big thing. Same for everyone in here. Some people are in here because they're making money over here and they've got this little bit and they're wanting to diversify more into crypto, which I suppose would be, that's the standard way that an investor starts to grow. When you're looking at life and the systems that surround us, it's okay. There we go. That's cool. If you want to join on your phone, Richard, I'll just keep this one muted. I know you're trying to find, Richard's got some internet issues at the minute. She's trying to find the best way to solve stuff. Hang on, let me unmute you. There you go. I don't know if you need that, bro. If you're looking at the systems that are around us, and don't think they're serving or working or that they're not going to last longer, and for what reason you may hold that view can vary wildly. Yeah. But if you're looking at things and really going, I no longer believe in this thing that when I grew up was really stable, and now it's not. Then the questions to ask around stuff are just bigger, or certainly the other side of failure, i.e., like the risk that they carry, is bigger, because you're not taking a little bit of the money you've made and putting it away. You're looking at everything you've got and you're going, what do I do with this? And you've never had to ask that before. And I really feel that. I mean, I left the country, not necessarily for that reason. I got a message from Spirit, and that's a whole nother sort of conversation. But nonetheless, over recent times, like, I've seriously had to look at everything, and I I don't believe the system is serving the whole anymore. And that's has been a weight on my mind for a long time until I decided, what is my flag? It's almost that question, like, what are you really willing to die for? Truly believing something until you're actually willing to die for it. And I know that some people on this call be like, what's that got to do with investing? Everyone's in different spaces in different places. But when you can find something that you're truly willing to like be passionate about and die for, you believe in it. And you can still be up for debate and challenge and everything. I'm not talking about, like staunch this or that, but when it comes to your own Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you're dealing with that lowest level, safety, security, these sorts of things, which you've never had to think about before, really. Most of us on this call are fairly privileged, fairly to quite privileged. And in terms of just upbringing and wealth and opportunities and all of these things. And so now having to go back to the basics and go, right, what do I do with this thing now, are big questions, and they are existential questions. There is no answer other than the answer you choose to prescribe to it. Rod can go left, Louise can go right, I can go up, Beth can go down. It doesn't matter. Like, we all make our own stance, but we hope through these calls that we can create a space where we can just discuss them, because they're more than crypto calls. Sovereign finance is just is a lot of aspects, and it really begins with, like, what am I doing? One of the big things Richard always comes back to whenever we have our calls or wherever we have groups is like, why are you here? I don't mean on this earth. That is a good question, but why are you in crypto? Because if you want to make a quick buck in 3 months, really fast, I've got $100, I need to make $1,000. That is a very different why, and we'll give you down a different path to Kimberly. I want to take all my money out of the fiat system. I want to put some into crypto. I don't want to lose it. I just want to be protecting it and be part of something else. They're literally like almost diametrically opposed. So so they are big, Kimberly, and I hope that as you're exploring these things that you can have more space in them, because then when you have the space, you can fill the space and the gaps with your thoughts. Is that cool, sister? Rocket. Marie, so to quickly go back to you, then first step, go and buy some crypto. You're American. Where do you go and buy that in the simplest way? Probably Kraken. Who's your bank, if you don't mind me asking?
I have it's a credit union.
So do they allow online banking?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the biggest issue you might face is getting your money into crypto. That's one of the things that I've been doing for the last 6 months, helping people one-on-one just with that. And I will say, after all this time, when it comes to American people, or the world, but specifically American people, the easiest way for you to get into crypto is to find another American who has too much crypto and say to them, can I send you $1,000 if you send me $1,000 worth of BTC? And forget the bank. It requires trust. So, but like, I know your circle, you only know people that you trust. Someone's into crypto that has some. Yeah. If you can meet them face to face, great. But there's a lot of, it's not always possible, but it's just so much more easier. I'm not saying to do that because you are away from the prying eyes of banks, although given the rest of this conversation, that is potentially an added bonus. I am not advocating not paying tax. But when the most private way ever to buy Bitcoin is to not include your bank, is to go and meet a person, hand them some money, they send you some Bitcoin to an address, it's private. It's your choice if you wish to declare that. And there's one guy in particular I'm working with at the minute that for 2 months, I've been trying to get his bank to accept sending money to an exchange. He's with Charles Schwab. I'm sure you've heard of Charles. Yeah. So, and it's a royal pain in the ass. I've never had as much difficulty as I have with American people getting into crypto. Coinbase will work. I just really hate Coinbase with a pretty venomous passion, which probably needs to soften a little bit, if I'm honest. Omar's nodding there. He knows what I was talking about. So that's the easiest way to get into crypto. Go find someone, maybe there's someone in the group, I don't know. And maybe Kimberly can get into crypto really easily and you can send Kimberly some money. Because I know you ladies trust each other. So there's all sorts of ways around it. I hope that kind of helps to begin. Get some crypto, get in, and then the conversations start to happen. Cool. Omar says, other options to privacy, local Bitcoins. Local Bitcoins is really good. You will pay a bit of a premium. So basically, privacy comes with a cost, and people sell that cost. I tend to, if you're only looking at, a couple of $1,000 or less or anything like that, someone is always happy that has a need for cash. You have a need for Bitcoin. When those two needs meet, there is no charge. But some people make their money in Bitcoin and crypto by offering the service of privacy, and they charge a fee for that. Cool. Does that give you enough stuff to rock and roll? Awesome. 1 second. Cool. All right. So Rod wants to load Binance from a fiat bank account. You've answered your own question, Rod, I think. I've never seen like the verification stuffs. Binance's one's pretty good. So you currently have a Binance account that's unverified, and because it's unverified, you're not able to connect your fiat bank account. Is that right? Yeah. Given what you've said about the world, again, given the fact that you've got sons or a couple of relatives that are into it, you may also wish to look at that as well. Because if your view is, I think the fiat banking system is going to collapse, then what pain does it cause you to let go of it? What do you even need to hold connected to your fiat bank account for? If you have a need, then yeah, of course. But I'm just bringing that in to really ask, like, do you even need that? If you've got 250K sat there to onboard, maybe. But again, if any of you are on this call or people that have got, 100, probably about 50K or more that they wish to onboard, I can connect you with OTC desks and private buyers and sellers who only deal with 50K and up. And they're human being interactions. You're not having to go through a system. And so some of you, there might be way more than what you want to put in, but I can tell you if you're dealing with the large amounts, then OTC desks, which is over the counter, is just a much simpler way of buying large amounts of crypto. So as just said, I did a swift transfer from my credit union in Canada to Binance, and they called me and drilled me where I was sending my money, why I was sending it. They wanted details. They asked me if I was sending it to a crypto, more specifically Bitcoin. I said it was a personal deposit. I didn't give them the info they wanted. They crossed the line of privacy with the questions they were asking. Very nice. Can I ask who is iPhone? Usually, I know who it is. It's Trisha, isn't it? There we go.
Yes, yes, it's me. Yeah.
And when they called you and they said all that, and you said it's a personal deposit, did they approve it?
They asked me about 6 questions, and they called me twice. And yeah, she called me the first time and was asking about the address. She was drilling me on first the address, where it was going, all that stuff. And then she called me back again, and she asked me a lot of questions about, I would say about 6 additional questions to that. And it was just crossing the line. It was completely, it's my money. It's none of their business where it's going, And I said, if you notice the address, it says California. I said, I have a brother in California. I said, I prefer not to talk about this. This is private. This is my money. And then she goes, well, I just need to know, is it going to crypto? And I said, like I said, this is my private money, and I have a brother in California. I'm not talking about where this is going. I said, is it going to Bitcoin? She said. I said, this is none of your business what I'm doing with my money. I said, like I said, I kept on repeating the same thing over and over again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Done.
So I
like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the thing is, like when they ask these questions, my mum, who's usually on these calls, she refers to when she was growing up, that when you met the bank manager, she says you would doff your cap. You know, the bank manager was revered. You almost like in the same way the old school idea of a policeman and a teacher. This person was the pinnacle of society, and that authoritarian energy is still here today. But it's so easy when the place you're calling, the bank, we have this strange relationship with. It's my money. I choose to put it with you, but then you're drilling me. So many people will be like, will answer all those questions, and I think
you never know.
It's a good test again of sovereignty to go, I don't need to answer this question. It's a personal matter, and you did give them something. My brother lives there, and I'd rather not talk about it.
Exactly.
And
Could
repeating
I just
that.
add something to that, please? I had a similar experience with an elderly friend, and the bank phoned them up about something almost the same like what you're saying. And what it is, there's been quite a few instances where elderly people are being conned. So the bank was phoning them up just to make sure and asking a lot of questions just to make sure that there's not somebody behind them coercing them to transfer the money for whatever building, to do with renovations to a house, or it could be any reason, but it's been happening a lot apparently, that they're being coerced into sending a lot of money.
I will agree with that as well. When I was only going bank to bank from my bank account in my name to my bank account in my name. So because I had that phone call and she was asking me, I can hear there's noise. Where are you? Now, immediately I can think that's an invasion of my privacy. But then Andy, who's flying the other side of the flag here, and it's good to have these different perspectives as well. If I'm in a park and there's a guy next to me, like I think it's a really difficult one. What is it called when they have to look after due care and attention of customers? There's a certain duty of care from a bank, yeah. Because when all the British people were getting frauded, there was a whole hoo-ha going. The banks were like, "Oh, it's not our fault," and the British people were like, "Whoa, where's your protection measures to protect us?" And then there's the other side. Okay, they implement the measures, but then some of those measures impose on what I, in that moment, deem to be an invasion of privacy. Now, in Trisha's case, she's of sound mind and body, and he's sending it to her. She knows what she's doing with it, and he's able to just hold those responses. So I think there's a balance then between them asking those questions, and if the other person on the line is fervent in their, I know what I'm doing, it's my money, send it, then they should be releasing that. And then the others. Go on, Trisha.
I was just going to say, in my case, they were specifically asking multiple questions on crypto and in the end, Bitcoin.
Yeah,
so,
there's a lot of scammers about with specifically to do with crypto these days.
Okay,
somebody approached me on Facebook asking me to sign up with, my crypto with them. And
no, but this is different because I also sent them 4 or 5 different emails with information. They knew, and I called them and talked to them on the phone personally. So there was no excuse for those questions. Absolutely none.
Yeah, I can see all sides. I think there's, I do think there is a fear with banks, and they want to know, and they maybe want to find a way to stop it and all sorts of stuff. And they could easily use, just like we're seeing right now, why is this here? Oh, it's COVID related, just thrown in there or not. It's just, it's almost like a reason to ask you more invasive questions. So I think there's both sides to it fully, but I agree, Trish, if you've been sending lots of emails and they're well aware of it, then it would appear that it's more likely that they're just having some struggle with you retrieving your money from them. They're not happy with that and moving it into crypto. And it just opens up the question more for us here of privacy in general around finance, and where and how Bitcoin plays a part in this, and doesn't, because Bitcoin is not private. It's not private. In fact, I'm just going to ask here, does anyone on this call raise your hand if you did think Bitcoin was private?
think they
Okay,
call
thank
it
you, Chris.
pseudo-anonymous, right?
You could call it pseudo-anonymous, but even then, it's only pseudo-anonymous if you do certain things. Like, but by the way it's set up at the minute, it definitely doesn't guarantee anonymity, put it that way. It can do if it's done correctly. I just want to say hello to quite a few people that have joined. We've got Temi Top, Temi, we've got Letitia, we've got Jerry, good to see you again, sir. We have Rebecca on also. Courage is with us. We've got Clive. Clive, I prefer this background. I am waiting for a bike to come past you though, but it's a good background, is that? And I think that's it. So we're halfway through the call. I'm going to do a quick picture. If you can put your camera on, please do. If you can't, don't worry about it. I'm going to do a countdown from 5, and in 4, and in 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Thank you, people. So, I shall have a seat. Richard, is your mic rocking and rolling now? Are you good? Or have you given up?
No problem. It's my crappy internet living nowhere over here. So sorry about that.
Richard lives in Middle Earth, we've decided. So if anyone knows how to stream bandwidth to Middle Earth, please don't tell me Starlink is the answer. Then we can get Richard some bandwidth, or he'll leave. One of the two. Leave Middle Earth. So
yeah.
Christina, my partner, when I met her, I always remember her talking about privacy, or people that didn't like banks or governments knowing what they were doing. And she said that only baddies want privacy. And we had a whole discussion about this at the time. Views very much changed on that. And it's this idea that, you know, privacy you only want privacy if you're doing something bad or illegal. And whereas the idea that privacy is a human right, or is up to me as a sovereign human being if I want to allow some information to pass, is almost kind of forgotten. So I would love to just kind of come out to people at this stage, because we've got people from all sorts of walks on here. And I'd love to just gauge who, if anybody is pro privacy, and I would love it if anybody is not bothered about privacy, because it's a, in my opinion, the next big hot thing that's going to be rearing its head soon. So do we have any pro privacy people who would love to share their thoughts and their views for a couple of minutes? None at this stage. Do we have any non-privacy people? Letitia?
Hey, Daniel. I mean, I would definitely, hey, thanks for hosting this again, and nice to see everybody on the call. You know, I would definitely be pro-privacy. I would put myself in that camp, just because, I mean, the more I understand about the financial system and about really how little privacy we've had in our transactions, and how, I mean, to be honest, like, privacy is something that I think many of us didn't even think of until, you know, the more you understand, the more you realize that it's almost a trade-off. The more privacy you give away, the more control you also give away, it seems to me. Because, you know, like, so many of us have gotten used to electronic payments and the convenience of that. So for example, you know, I can send money from my Canadian bank account, I can send an e-transfer to somebody. We use our debit cards to buy everywhere. And I know damn well, you know, I went to school for marketing. I know that this information is used for data mining purposes. So then you get flyers in the mail with all your favorite items that you bought at the grocery store. Oh, guess what? They're on sale this week just for you, you know? So on the one hand, it's like, oh, well, this is perfect because they're sending me exactly the stuff that I'm interested in. But, you know, in recent times, you know, speaking about this past year and just how scary big government has gotten, and, you know, I cannot help thinking that you know, they have the means to potentially prohibit transactions for people who are not compliant with all these increasingly totalitarian measures, you know. So, you know, just like they are increasingly impeding our ability to travel freely, what's to stop them? What's to stop a government entity from saying, oh, this person is not vaccinated, this person is speaking out against, you know, what we're trying to create here. So, oh, guess what? Your account has been red flagged. Oh, yeah, this transaction is not going through. So you know, if before I was very complacent and I had faith in the financial system, I had no reason to be concerned about, you know, the fact that I was using my debit card and essentially every one of my transactions was being tracked by a. And even to this day, I still do that. I can't say I've made the transition into private transactions. Well, I'm increasingly doing so because now I understood, you know, peer-to-peer cash. So, you know, I bought a bicycle yesterday from someone here in Blair. I was like, well, you know what? I have a bit of XRP in my account. I'll just send you that. Is that okay with you? He's like, sure. Like, perfect. I love this, you know. Not saying that that's private either, but I feel that at least, well, you know, it was wallet to wallet. At least there was not a third-party bank involved, you know. But of course, we still got all these exchanges that are still third parties, and they're still watching our transactions. So to achieve, you know, full privacy, it's almost like, wow, can we even achieve that? But again, because of the fact that I am sincerely concerned about what's going on in the world and the potential repercussions for those of us who you know, are not compliant, I think privacy is, you know, the topic of privacy becomes important, and the privacy of our money, and how can we still maintain control. Thanks for your listening, everyone, and for giving me a platform. But yeah, I mean, if, you know, to whatever extent we can take back control of our money and have private transactions, I think it becomes very important in these increasing times of totalitarian control, it seems.
Thank you, Letitia, for sharing on there. And you made some really, really good points as well, my dear. You really do. And I want to bring in a couple of things here, because there's some new people on here that will be connecting some of their own dots with what you've shared there. And there'll be some existing people, because I kind of want to bring in CBDCs, because then people can understand that central bank digital currencies. Jerry, just because I saw you unmute yourself, do you want to just say something on there before I respond with a few bits and bats?
Well, I think I'd certainly agree with a lot of what Letitia said, but I think up until things became digital, people looked at privacy as almost a vanity thing. You know, I want to keep my stuff private, and there may be still some of that people think that's where privacy belongs because it's my information. I just don't want it out there, blah, blah, blah. But I think it goes beyond, you know, like anytime you give something up, it's a portal to all your stuff, the way digital works now, right? Now, whether it's, you know, Ledger giving up all their information in a hack, people don't know what people have on their wallets, but they have all this information of people with crypto wallets. So they instantly become targets, right? Because at some point, someone gave up their information in a purchase. So, you know, I think when certain cryptos talk about an identity packet as part of that crypto so that we can begin to own and curate our own identity and our own information so that we only let it out when we want it to go out. You know, I think privacy should be, it should be like locking the door, and we should consider privacy in a kind of a security as an attack on our finances, really. On, you know, someone can get through something somehow, somewhere, no matter if it's a purchase, if it's somebody scanning our wallet, you know, you hear of so many things that could happen. But privacy, just, you know, if people have that perception in their mind because of what privacy means in a broader sense, don't confuse that type of privacy with data privacy, is what I'm saying. And it might be that that people take it more seriously when they realize they shouldn't think about privacy should become protection in their mind rather than privacy. Like it's that serious to me.
I think that's a really, really, really good distinction, because I think when you said privacy was about vanity, I'm also going to put in there in the olden days, I'm only going back bloody 15 years, but privacy was also for bad people. You know, the only people that cared about privacy then were the people that had it from that vanity perspective, or, you know, I'm doing something that I know I'd be locked up for, something like that. And I think you've made a really good distinction there, because we're moving privacy now into almost, it's closer to security than it is privacy. And there's a really good parallel I want to make here. Did anybody watch the Netflix, I think it was The Social Dilemma, which was the one about Cambridge Analytica and the voting? Was it Social Dilemma, or was it the other one? The Great Hack. Doesn't matter which one it was. The Great Hack. Okay, cool. So for those that aren't know, Cambridge Analytica used all the Facebook information to help sway voting rights, and they called them the people that hadn't decided. They were trying to find tactically just enough people to sway states, or they dealt with Brexit, they dealt with the Trump election, and they dealt with another some ones that were in Africa. And voting and this idea of political parties used to be let's just say it was once a fair system. But with the use of social media, there's so much information now, that it's effectively weaponized, that you can use this information to sway such a huge thing that has such a huge impact that it actually is now dangerous. And that's why they're talking about, like, whose responsibility is it when an AI system can automatically do something to try and make you use a system more, that has a social impact, because no one's taking responsibility for that. And this is where privacy's got to now. And this is why I think it's the next big, I had a meeting with the guy the other week who really got me to help me understand this, that I said to him, nobody cares about privacy. And he said, they don't care about it now. But when a central bank digital currency comes in, and they are coming in, like the UK has been working on central bank digital currencies for a few years. The white paper's been out for a few years. They only talked about it this year, but they didn't start it this year. And a central bank digital currency, I'm going to fly the positive, has the ability to disseminate currency and money to only to first generation British single mothers with 2 kids. Now that's unbelievable. Like, to do that right now, you can't. As a central World Bank gives it to a central bank gives it to NatWest and local banks, and then you have to apply for loans and get it out. But with the central bank digital currency, you can directly inject money into whatever demographics you want, and that is good, or certainly can be good. But on the other side of the equation, we could turn around and say, or a government could turn around and say, oh, you bought alcohol last week, did you? We saw that you spent 16 of your pounds on 4 bottles of alcohol. That's your quota's done now. So you go and buy booze next week, and your $1 is actually only worth 50 cents. So you can buy it, but you're going to have to spend twice as much. Someone could say, well, that's good for society and it's healthy. Okay, then what about when last week we noticed you attended a peace rally, which, by the way, incited whatever gets incited, anger, I don't know, people start fighting. And so for the next 1 month, your $1 are only worth 75 cents everywhere you spend them, unless you spend them in Walmart. And so this power and control, if you have the ability to do this over here, you have the ability over here. I'm aware of Rod. I'm going to come to Rod in a minute, and then Paul. So this idea of privacy was never a big thing for people, because we didn't have a need for it. Because back in the day, the only people that cared about privacy was vanity and was about, bad people. Whereas now we're moving into this space where the amount of information an entity, a government or a private company has on us is so detailed and so insane that it's not right for that volume of personal information about who you are to a very, very, very finite arrow, that's not right. And it's bringing up a whole host of problems. So I want to come to Rod and then to Paul, and then we'll see where we're at.
Yeah, I'm going to put a slightly different perspective on this, on the privacy aspect, I think, because I think that there's some issues here. There's privacy, there's security, and there's control. And these can all sort of blur a little bit. Although I totally agree that, yeah, we need some security in our transactions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that our transactions have to be private or totally private, as long as they're our transactions and they can't be manipulated or affected by others, particularly centralized power brokers. But what I wouldn't like to see is people like politicians being able to have carte blanche to move large sums of money about completely opaquely without the public that vote for those politicians knowing where it's come from and where it's going to. So yeah, that's my take on it.
I like that. Thank you very much. And it's those three were, well, and not control, but certainly privacy and security. I never really even had a distinction of those a couple of years ago. And I think control is the third one to bring in, and there's probably a few more, and it's good to just understand where they overlap, where they're different. And I always wrote down on my notes here, why do I care? Because we could spend all this time talking about privacy, but if you can't answer that question, same again, why am I in crypto? If you can't say, why do I care? In fact, do I care? If I don't, why don't I care? Should I care? If you do, why do I care? Does it matter? Really getting clear on that, because again, Letitia's, if you don't mind me saying this issue, you're very clear and very strong on what your views are of what's going on and how you feel about that. Half the people on this call could have different views. No one's right or wrong, but again, it's getting that clarity of what do I believe and why do I believe it. Paul. There you go.
Yeah, well, Rich posted that article in the chat just about the benefits test in Australia, I think, where they were testing it on a digital card and then looking to sort of control what it can be spent on. And I think, that's certainly the kind of darker side of it. And in terms of my day job, I think that's, in terms of what you said about filtering money directly to individuals, I think it has got that real positive slant on it. But when you see something like that, you can see where the nefarious kind of dark edge of it can be as well. But it was Deb's posted a link to a Telegram group, Wrenching the Gears, and there was an article in there, I think last week sometime, where it mentioned that Cardano were doing an ID, digital ID in Ethiopia, I think, or somewhere like that, and that there was information to suggest that they were leaking information to other businesses that had links to like AI and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. This is a blockchain ID in Ethiopia by Cardano and its broader implications. They're feeding data to singularity.net. That is, what's he called? Peter?
Diamandis.
Peter Diamandis, yeah. Let's have a look at Singularity. So, sorry, I stopped you then, Paul. I was trying to find the article so that people could see it.
No, see, I just kind of wanted to ask your sort of thoughts on something like that, because, I guess on the one hand, he's kind of, all you're maybe seeing is like the positive spin on it to say, we're bringing on all these unbanked people, we're providing this infrastructure for countries that are lacking in certain things. Mm-hmm. Yet behind the scenes, there's this other stuff happening, and it's kind of like, are the positive elements of blockchain being used to kind of hide other stuff that is happening behind the scenes? And if Cardano are doing it, can other blockchains be doing it as well?
Yeah, I think there's a really good thing to bring up here. What did someone say? Look, there's a lot of people that think technology is bad. Just full stop. It's bad. Social media is bad. And we've talked about this on when we used to do the sense making calls, that there is no good and bad. Is a knife good or bad? Well, are you cutting birthday cake or are you stabbing your ex? You know, they're fundamentally very different things. It's the same knife. Yeah, you can use a different knife if you want, but you know, it's the same knife. So technology is not bad. The gun isn't bad. It's always the humans. We're pretty much the golden thread of all the things that occur that are bad, because as far as I'm aware in nature, it just is. You know, it's a meadow, it's a field, it's a swamp. It just is. It's humans that cast these stones, and I think blockchain is no different. And I'm trying to open this up, and I don't want to bring my thoughts in too much, but it kind of comes to, I've made my stance now, or I'm very close to really digging my flag in of what I believe in certain things, and crypto and blockchain, specifically blockchain, I try and separate those words, is on my flag. But do I think that all the blockchains out there, all the different blockchains that exist, do I think they're all out there for the betterment and the ultimate highest, greatest good of humanity? Not necessarily. But then could a blockchain be benevolently, meaning I'm doing it for good, doing something? I'm just going to pick the Ethiopia thing, yeah? I'm doing it for the goods, meaning I own the blockchain and I'm really doing something for good. But then could everyone perceive that as bad? Absolutely. I'll tell you right now, I believe in a one world government. But if I said that on certain calls, they'd be like, oh, he's evil. Like, if you want to be one humanity, one race with resources that the whole planet can operate and move, we have a problem over here, we need these over here. Like, you need organization. Like one world government to have a harmonious world that works for every single person on the whole entire planet. I cannot see, the minute you have separation, which is the opposite of one world government, you then have, this is mine. Yeah, but we really need it. Yeah, but what have you got? Well, we're dying. Yeah, I know, but I've got to look after it doesn't work. And so if everyone's going to kind of let go of everything, well, that's a one world government. And could some people be in charge of that one world government and be bad? Of course. But that doesn't mean that the idea and concept of a one world government's bad. So I want to bring this back into Cardano and privacy and all these different things. The idea of, if I was in charge of a system, yeah, I would want to know, what do we have? What have we got? Someone's like, you need to be in control, everything's fucked up. All right, cool. What resources have we got? What problems have we got? Who have we got? Stock control. The idea and the concept is not bad, but could it be used for bad reasons? Yeah. Now, if you've got whole nations, you don't know who's there, and I'm just flying this flag for why the identity of a particular population or world is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, but when we see things through certain lenses, I've been on that Range the Gears channel, and my view is she's dug her flag in of what she thinks is going on in the world, and nothing will shake that. And every piece of article she shares comes from her bias. So everything's bad unless it's very clearly good. And I get scared of things like that sometimes, because they just take you down a rabbit hole where there's no back doors. And could some of the stuff that she shares be true? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that by definition everything's bad. Like, because where do you draw the line? And so there's just, right now, the whole world is expanding with things, and we have this blockchain, and we've got some people that want to know who everybody is and all sorts of stuff. And I'm going to guess it was Jerry speaking earlier when he talked about, you know, if you're buying something, the first question becomes, I'm not against, what's the opposite of privacy? Identity, let's say. I'm not against identity, but I'm now aware of when I use my identity. Whereas in the past, it wasn't even a thought. So now when I go and do something, I'm like, okay, I am now handing this over to you. I'm aware I'm handing it over. I'm going to falsify. I'm not going to falsify. I'm going to use my random email address that I have that's on a private server that's not linked to me. And I'm going to use I don't know, my Glint card to pay, let's just say. And I'm giving that information away across in a way that I control it. And in the future, I believe that there'll be data brokers for information and identity. So I bring this up because what's happening with Cardano, and could other blockchains be, I don't think for a second that Cardano is doing it particularly for nefarious purposes. I'm not of that view at this stage. Could someone else be asking them to do it for nefarious purposes? Of course. Could other blockchains be doing things for more nefarious purposes? I have questions over XRP and their whole role of society, but they're just explorative questions for me. And I want to make sure that people, at least on these calls, can just go away understanding that blockchain can be used for bad and can be used for good. And we cast our votes when we buy these things and hold these things, and every pound, every dollar you spend casts a vote. You're okay with whatever that is, the whole supply chain that was behind making an iPhone or an Android or a de-Googled phone or whatever it is. And sometimes it's too difficult to sway away from these because they're so ingrained in our life. And sometimes we make that decision, and that decision comes with a price. Privacy is hard. It is hard to really be private, but it begins with a thought, and it begins with us kind of going, it means something to me. So I can't fully answer the direct question on what they're doing, Paul, but does that kind of help to at least expand that out a little bit? Is that okay?
Thank you.
Cool, no worries, man.
There are other chains. I know DigiByte has DigiID, for instance. There are other chains that have ID. You know, and just think right now when we use our credit cards online, and I find it, I don't often do it anymore, but I find it a violation when I have to type in my phone number, sometimes my address, just because I want to buy something with my credit card. You know, we give up far more with our credit card purchases than we do with our crypto purchases, right? And, you know, I think somebody made a point, it was you or someone else, about the transfer of our information. Right now, we do that amidst our purchase. We fill out our credit form or Visa form, whatever it is, and our information is part of our purchase. But if we could make our purchase and then have either a Cardano ID packet or a DigiByte ID packet, if it is even required as part of the thing, but if that could be sent independently, then we're in control of our, you know, because that packet is, you know, is secure. It's almost like the way Chainlink works, you know. Chainlink is an oracle that brings data onto a blockchain. And that data, when it's brought in, is kept secure so that the blockchain smart contract stays pure and it's secure and it'll function forever, right? You don't get corrupted data. That's what Chainlink does. That's all it does. And that's why it's going to, you know, be so monstrous. But if our data that we have to include, or that maybe we need to include, and maybe it's not always a purchase, it could be, you know, some other thing that we do online. But if our data could work like a Chainlink or oracle versus the way that we type it in now, I think is what these blockchains and these firms are trying to do. And to your point about nefarious or not, I think we should look at chains trying to give us something that we can protect our data with, is a way that we can kind of move forward in the world. And our data's not out there. It's in a tight kind of blockchain oracle that won't be encrypted on its way to, you know, where it's supposed to go.
Cool. I like that, Jerry. I like that very much. And I want to just show people a couple of sites, just so that, because this is a big conversation, and there's no answer to this. Someone once said, Andreas Antonopoulos talks about it being a layered solution. So there's a site called privacy.com, which you can look at, which is a layer in between you and what you're buying, which creates privacy when using your credit cards. So there's whole things you can do. It's not going to be as convenient, but I have heard that it's pretty slick and pretty cool. And it means that they don't know who you are. It's like I've only just started venturing into this, but I think it's creating a buffer of things so the end issuer gets paid, but it's not using your credit card details. And then there are whole sites dedicated. Let me just move this down, where you can spend Bitcoin to receive gift cards from all sorts of different companies and different places, so that you can then go and spend those without handing over data. Or this is to answer Trisha's question earlier of how do you buy something, and spend your Bitcoin from it.
Which site
This
is
one
this, Daniel?
I'll share this in the chat now so people have got it. I mean, this is just one I found. This is like top 10 sites to buy and sell gift cards with Bitcoin.
Cool.
There's loads. This is, I'm not promoting any of these. I just did a quick Google. I mean, I've heard some of them. I've heard of Gift. I've not heard of that. Crypto Voucher. You know, you're only going to get the sort of sites that actually have gift cards in the first place. Just stop sharing my screen, because one of the things I wrote down earlier is, like, if you're wanting to work in Bitcoin and in crypto, and you want to spend it and be private, the first thing you want to do is try and spend your crypto. So I'm out here in Mexico. My first question is, will you take crypto? Like Letitia went to buy a bike the other day. The person accepted some XRP. Fantastic. Second is cash. For as long as cash is here, cash is king. It's fungible, which means it, you know, a dollar is a dollar, a pound is a pound. And you can just spend it wherever you want. And to even the people that think the fiat system is going to collapse or we're going to move away from the dollar, until we do that, it's still there. Yes, we're losing purchasing power. So if you're keeping 100 grand in dollars, in 2 years, you can't buy as much with it. But that doesn't mean it's gone. Until it's gone, it's still here. Until the US dollar is not the global reserve currency, it is. As one of our mentors that me and Richard have once shared with us, like, it's still the strongest currency on the planet, period. So spending crypto comes first, spending cash comes second, and then using these cards and intermediary service comes after that. And privacy is something that either you directly feel, I'll use Letitia as an example here, and she's felt that oppression from a government in terms of her choices and what she stands for, or you probably know somebody. Like, you're all on this call, like you're way ahead of the curve in terms of crypto adoption, even if you haven't bought something yet. Like, you're way ahead of the curve. But someone you know probably has been affected by privacy, and I can definitely speak. I've had my accounts frozen a couple of times. I've had to speak to the bank God knows how many times. And whilst I agree with Andy's view earlier of protection of older people and of fraud, my feelings with some of the last conversations I've had with the bank are more on the side of where Trisha was coming from. I don't get called when I send those sums of money to known entities. Not that I've ever sent them before. I mean known, meaning, you know, I can't think of an example right now, but with the minute it's a crypto exchange, they have questions. The minute it's anything, Binance, Kraken, Bitstamp, it's like your transaction has been suspended, please contact us. Because they don't want, in my opinion, they don't want me sending that money onto there. And so this starts this whole privacy conversation of, it's my money. I've paid tax on it 3 times by the time it's got to me. And I choose to send it to this new space and this new sphere. So privacy is a thing that was relatively new for me, meaning how much I value privacy in the last few years. And I think that is only going to increase for people. So my resting comments in here would be around, like, how much do you think about privacy? How much have you thought about privacy so far? And where do you sit with it? And if you go around the houses and you end up back at square one, that's totally cool, which might be, I don't know. But it's good to go around those houses and really think about it, because the world is changing super fast. Central bank digital currencies are going to come in. And there's an obscene amount of power that comes with that. The credit card companies already have an obscene amount of data on you already. And so you add those two things together, And you only need a government that is more towards totalitarian or dictatorship or whatever you want to lean a little bit more. And the feeling of that oppression is heavy. Likewise, they lean the other way, and the amount of good it can do is great. Both of these realities exist. I choose to lean over this side, and I choose to have this view of what's going on. But that doesn't stop me also being aware of privacy as well and what I do about it. So we're coming to the end. I would love to. Hello?
No, he's probably
Bang on past as well.
I know. Am I back?
You're very well.
That was really strange. Okay, so apologies for that. I'm not too sure what happened. But I would love, just before, in fact, I'm probably going to take that as a sign. I'm going to leave that here. We've not heard much from Richard today. I think he's feeling the effects of Middle Earth internetage. I'm not too sure. I'll speak to him afterwards. But before I go, does anyone in particular just wish to share anything? I'd love that. Where I was going to go with that was to just get a couple of words from a few people, whether it's been insightful, whether it's been thought-provoking, whether you agree or disagree. Anybody care to share? I'd love at least one person who's never joined before as well to give us their two penneth. Marie?
I want to say thank you. It's been, I haven't been on a call since October, and I don't know how often you do this, but it was just lovely to hear from everyone and not feeling like I'm alone on this journey. So I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate not feeling like like an idiot in this world. And so I love this calm. So thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we do these every 2 weeks now, so the next one will be in 2 weeks' time. Although we are looking at changing the time soon, and that particular week I'll be coming out of a Joe Dispenza week-long retreat. So we may change the time on that, because one of the biggest feedbacks we got on the survey was 50% of the people that did the survey don't make the calls because they can't make the calls. But we do them every 2 weeks. So there won't be one next week. There will be one the week after, but the time may change soon.
Got it. Thank you. Thank
Cool.
you, everyone.
No problem. Anyone else need to share or wish to share? Any lasting parting words? Or are we all
I've
good?
got one question, Dan.
Sure, Chris.
As obviously crypto becomes more mainstream, you see companies like Square and Tesla adding it to their balance sheet. Obviously, with 10K annual reports and stuff, they have to declare what they're holding. If nobody knows, on the subject of privacy, what would they have to declare that, or that nobody would know if they didn't?
Well, they are entities. They're legal entities under a legal framework in a country, which means they have a legal requirement to share. Now, you're right, nobody would know, but on a balance sheet, if I've got 100 grand sat in the bank and I have to declare annual profits, and those quarterly reports are very important for them because they affect share price and investors. If I've got 100 million sat on a balance sheet and 20 million disappears unaccounted for, because obviously you need to spend it to buy the Bitcoin, and I don't bring the Bitcoin back onto the balance sheet, that would raise suspicion. Now, with good accountancy, you could probably hide it. But I think in this day and age, the companies that have been granted permission, because some of them literally have to get permission from board and from all sorts to even go buy the Bitcoin, they probably would declare it. I don't think they would keep it private. Jack Dorsey, who owns Twitter, is very pro Bitcoin. For him, buying Bitcoin is a marketing stunt. Could there be some non-publicly listed companies buying Bitcoin and not telling people? Absolutely. But when it comes to privacy, I think when you're a company, it's a very different question of privacy versus me as an entity, as an individual, as a sovereign human being. They're slightly different things, because the minute you choose to corporate yourself, you are providing a lot more information to the public. Does that help to kind of separate things out a little bit?
Yeah. I was just wondering, obviously, because like it could be quite hard to value a stock if they were hiding that. But yeah, no, it makes sense. If it disappeared off the balance sheet, you'd wonder where it's gone.
Yeah, and it to some people it would increase the value of them, but to others they'd be more scared of it. Like cryptos are really, it polarizes a lot of people at the minute. It really does. But I think privacy in corporate world and privacy in the business in you as an entity are two different things. And I think privacy in business may come, but at first it will begin with us. We aren't going to get anything. Privacy's got to start with us as human beings, and we've never valued it before. And that's a slightly different space to begin in than even what they're doing out there. And to be fair, with some of the stuff Elon Musk recently has moved from, let's say, a person I had a high level of respect for, and over the last few months, it is eroded at a faster than the cliffs of Dover are with waves. Like just yeah, real questions over what's going on there and hows and what's and whys. But another conversation for another time, because I'm conscious of time. But I want to make sure we just covered that question. Is that okay? Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Cheers, Chris. All right. Well, we're going to leave it there, guys. So we'll be back on in 2 weeks' time. So not next week, the week after that. We're going to cover interest-bearing accounts, which is staking and interest, of course, between sexes and dexes. Omar wanted to ask a question on that last time. So just understanding that. It's a very big topic, just like privacy is. If you have enjoyed this call, please do let us know in the Telegram group. Let other people know, because there's people that don't join because they think they're too early, stupid, quiet, whatever it might be. And I hope that you can feel from these calls that everyone is welcome. We do try to cover everyone's questions, really. Like, me and Richard really believe in what it is that we're doing, and we're doing this out of the goodness and kindness of our hearts. We don't charge for anything, and we're doing our best. That's why we've done it every 2 weeks, to just grow it as well, to offer some more value and make sure that we're covering things for people. So if you have enjoyed that, please let other people know. If you know the people that are in crypto and want a bit of a handhold to come on board, invite them into the group. We're only going to get adoption when people start to adopt it, and that only begins when you make the stance to go, I'm doing something about this, which is why we have these groups in the first place. So from myself and a more silent Richard this week, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. I hope you have a really nice evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And may we all find that sovereignty we need for a greater good for the whole of humanity. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Love that. Bye, everybody. Blessings.